Were your questions set? Like, did you just submit the same questions to every artist?
No. So she did, her interview style was different than my interview style.
And that's what we're finding when we're interviewing. Our interview styles are very different.
So I basically would look at the artists, and I would look at their work, and then I would decide what my questions would be. A lot of times, I basically told the artist, like, I'm just going to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And that's going to be my interview. And so I would sit down with them, I'd go to their studio, talk to them on Skype, whatever, and just have a conversation with them on the phone, whatever it was, and then I would record it, and then I would just go back, and that would be my notes for like when I talked with Gary Hirsch, who does the Joybots.
Joybots.
Yeah.
The orange one.
He's a Portland artist. He has
That's on a domino.
He has a firm here in town. He's got actually multiple firms around the globe, and it's called On Your Feet. And they do improv. So they've got clients like Starbucks and different like major clients, and they go in and they teach them how to be creative using improv. And so that's his.
Man, that sounds super familiar. Like,
Yeah.
that guy may have come in for one of my classes at the Art Institute.
I bet he has. He's done like a TEDx in Portland. He's a pretty cool guy. He goes over and he does all kinds of speaking engagements around the country.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really fascinating, energetic guy. The bridge down on, or not bridge, but there's a building down on, I think it's 3rd Street downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the big salmon fish cutouts on it.
Mm-hmm.
He did that.
Okay.
He did all those. So he's a.
And my interview style was definitely more emailing, because I have 2 young children, and so I have to email my interviews. So I would get more written responses and then write articles based on those responses. A lot of times we would interview together though, and we would video, and then I would write an article and he would edit the video for the site. So
What we've found, because in high school, I started doing interviews for the newspaper, and later on I did interviews for the yearbook. But what I found was I would get more out of artists by I said 2 words, yes and uh-huh. And I would just try to let the artist continuously talk. And but Christopher, do you want to explain your interview?
Well, I get into it. I really enjoy listening to people, and I pursue an understanding of what they're saying to me. A lot of times I'll hear you say something like, "Well, we're doing the such and such show," and what's that? And then you have to explain to me all the things that go into making that show.
Well, I see what you do is you'll put your own story in as a way to relate, and you see. You did this, and I relate to that by this story, and try to get them to continue talking that way. And I think that the 2 of us on camera has really led to some really great interviews, like him, and that's synergy, where 1 and 1 is greater than 2 separately.
Yeah. Absolutely, we find that too.
Yeah.
We always come up with the best ideas together.
I know.
We'll be like sitting in my studio just talking, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, that's an awesome idea.
We just came up with a great idea for a summer series of shows in Salem, and I was like, holy crap, man! We think of the best ideas. When we're together,
Yeah.
It's so weird. I don't know what
just
it is.
Bouncing ideas
It's
off
like
each other.
the ginger knowledge, the ginger wisdom.
No wonder they're so scary.
Don't look at us in the eye.
Well, I find that a lot of times artists, they tend not to say very much because they don't think that people understand.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, if you ask them about a painting, they'll say, oh yeah, that's this. And it'll be some kind of a rote answer that they always say when somebody asks them about this painting, right? And if you can identify yourself as a painter or someone with that kind of experience, and then relate to them how you understand the paint, or even have an interpretation of what you're looking at on the canvas or on the board, then the artist is like, oh, this person, I can talk to this person, you know, because they have an understanding that most people haven't had, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of the blessing of being 50 years old and having tried a whole bunch of stuff.
I have an insane amount of respect and love for this man who is my partner, and the Art Life video blog would be nothing without him as well. Like,
yeah, it was his idea, but as soon as it happened, I mean,
he grasped onto the idea and took as much ownership in it as I've ever taken into it. So, thank you, Christopher.
When we started the magazine, I actually started with a Portland artist named Ben Will. I was doing the Emerge series in Salem, and then the guy who basically championed us for the shows, Larry DeLapp, his business closed, so we lost our space. So I was like, well, we'll give it, 6 months or whatever of a hiatus and just see what comes up. And Ben told me about this space in Portland that was free, and so we went up and checked it out, and it was sponsored by Scion, the car manufacturer.
Yeah.
So I was like, sweet. So we pitched the idea of this show to them, and they were like, we signed up for a year contract with Scion. And so we were all of a sudden doing these shows in the industrial district in Portland.
Wow.
And we're like, yeah, badass. So we started, and he and I were talking, and we were like, we should do like a art like zine that's paired with the show to just promote the show.
So that was the Emerging Artists series?
So the show was called Emerge Underground.
Okay.
And then we started the EA zine, and we were like, it's Emerging Artist Magazine, and then he was around for that first one, and then he went off, and he started focusing on his own art, and then I was like, I'm just gonna keep doing it. So we kept doing it, and she came on board a short time after, and she was gung ho about writing articles, and she was our editor, our copy editor for everything. Mm-hmm. So she totally understood the vision of where I was going with it, and then we got to the point where we just decided we were going to stop doing the shows and just do the magazine. Mm-hmm. And then shortly after we made that decision, we got burnt out on doing the magazine.
We tried to make it a nonprofit.
Yeah, we tried to make it a nonprofit, and it was just trying to sell. I've got friends who work in the newspaper business, and they said, 100% of revenues comes from ad sales. It doesn't come from people actually buying your publication. And so trying to sell ads in a relatively unheard of magazine is, it's a full-time job. And, you get a lot of lip service like, oh yeah, I'll buy an ad. But then we're like, we've got a quality publication, and we don't want to have Harry's Strip Club advertising, in our art magazine. So then we started getting picky about who we were going to take and who we weren't going to take, and we found that we were never going to make any money at it because we didn't want to have our ad section was in the back, and we didn't want to destroy our good quality publication. The idea for it was, if you look at architectural digest magazines, all the articles are really in depth, and it's got high quality photos. And I was like, why aren't there art magazines like that for our generation? Mm-hmm. You look at High Fructose, or you look at Juxtapose. There's some articles in there, but it's mostly just pictures.
Yeah.
And so the problem with that is you have to, the burden is on you, the reader, and I think Juxtapose if people were honest, it's mostly artists reading that magazine.
Right.
I'm sure there's some collectors that read it, but it's a good majority are artists wanting to see their own good stuff in there. And so the burden is on you to do all the research. So if you go online, you click the links, you do whatever, and then you never really know, because most artists don't want to talk about themselves, so you never know what the story is. And we were like, we need to do this. We want to tell people stories and just do all the work. So all you have to do is get on the page and just scroll down. That's it. You have the pictures, you have their links, you can contact them from there. All we're doing is telling the story for them that they would never tell on their own.
Yeah, and we did.
And that's what you guys are doing now with this series, which is awesome.
And I mean, I feel that the Art Life video blog, as a conglomerate as a whole, has been able to relate to artists and like Chris Haberman, like the two of you, like I'm not gonna remember his name. The other
Stephen Malden?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know you don't.
That's all right, man. We do the same thing. I brain fart all the time.
I have so many names. Jeffrey Howard. That's
Jeffrey Howard. He's another.
He's another.
He's like a manager, an artist.
He's another person that I feel shares our heart and our vision for the art community in Portland and the surrounding areas. I'm sorry, Jeffrey. I didn't mean to blank on your name.
It happens.
I love you. Like, you're a great person, and like I said, you have the same vision and the same heart as us. That means so much to me, and I think those are our biggest supporters because they see how we're approaching the art community and how we're trying to represent the art community in a very realistic way. We're not trying to put a filter on it. We're not.
I have to tell you guys, I saw your post on Craigslist.
Yeah.
I always troll Craigslist from Salem, like dreaming about Portland, what's going on, and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I saw on Patricia Williams' Facebook page, I saw a video and I was like, badass! That's so badass!
That's so cool. That means
so I was like, this is real. This is happening.
Dude, Colleen contacted me because of my Craigslist post.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand the level of her work until I really visited her studio.
Oh, some of the highest quality artists that we found is through Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
Or not Facebook,
Craigslist.
Craigslist, yeah.
Stephen Malden, Colleen, you guys were through Colleen pretty much, but you saw our Craigslist ad.
Yeah.
This guy, we have a balloon artist, a balloon sculptor, because this guy is unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. He's coming to 4th F and Friday, the very first one. He's our interview for that day, but we're bringing him in as like an extra added bonus.
That's so cool, man.
Like, I'm really excited that we're doubling up. He's stoked about it. He's stoked about it.
2 videos in one day, or we've even done supplementals. But we had actually 2 interviews in one day, a couple of different times.
Cool. My buddy Jeff, he's coming to video the whole 4th.
Oh yeah. He's a videographer, and he's going to hang out during the 4th F and Friday and make film for us.
I haven't talked to him in a while. I really
Such a great name for a show, by the way.
4th fucking Friday.
I'm so jealous that you guys.
The triple F.
I try to do alliteration in as much as I possibly can.
So we're going to do 3 Fs as the logo.
Yeah.
And then February.
We don't want anybody forgetting what F means.
Exactly. Oh man, it's so
It's
awesome.
fun, yeah. was I going to say? Oh, the thing, this project is like